Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, or good morning, good evening, depending on where you are. My name is Tiziana Pirelli, and I'm the coordinator of the Global Bioenergy Partnership. And it's my honor and pleasure to welcome you all today at this first webinar of the GBEP webinar series for 2025. Let's wait still 1 minute while the other participants will join us. And the number is increasing. And I just want to tell you a few, give you a background, let's say, on this webinar. As I mentioned, this is part of the GBEP webinar series, and we will have other webinars on these or other topics in the next months and during the year. But this in particular is focusing on clean cooking, and in particular on bioethanol for clean cooking, which is just one of the bioenergy option to accelerate the transition to clean cooking and in general the energy transition. I think clean cooking is one of the most important components of the energy transition, and this is why today we are here. And this webinar is focusing on bioethanol, but we will discover many characteristics, strengths, and also many challenges that affect bioethanol, but that could be extended, let's say, applicable also to other type of bioenergy solutions for clean cooking. The webinar will focus, as I said, on bioethanol, and this is part of a project, of a wider project on bioethanol for clean cooking. The name of the project is International Dialogues on Bioethanol as a Clean Cooking Fuel in Selected Countries in Africa and Asia. This project is funded by the United States Department of Agriculture, Foreign Agricultural Services, USDA FAS. And this is just one of the activities that we have been carried out in the context of the project online, but also directly in beneficiary countries in Africa and Asia. And as you will hear in a while, especially in Uganda and Rwanda. Today, I'm here with my colleague, Constance Miller, Deputy Director of the Global Bioenergy Partnership. And I would like to thank Connie for the great job you have been doing in the context of this project and with the partnership. And I'm here also today with Linda Davis from Giraffe Bioenergy from Kenya. Thank you very much, Linda, for having joined us. And without taking other precious minutes, I will leave the floor to Connie for her presentation, which title is Lessons Learned from Stakeholder Dialogues on Bioethanol for Clean Cooking in Uganda and Rwanda. And Connie, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Tiziana. Can you just confirm you can see my screen and hear me fine?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So hi, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are in the world today. It's very nice for me to be here. And as Tiziana mentioned, to provide you with the lessons learned from the FAO activities that have been carried out on bioethanol for clean cooking in Rwanda and Uganda at the end of last year. My name is Constance Miller, but I would also like to thank Tiziana and also our other colleague Sophia for their support in the development of this project, this presentation, and also the project activities in general. So in my presentation, I'm going to explain why FAO has been working on clean cooking and bioethanol. I'll also give a little bit of context to the activities within the project and then provide, as I mentioned, some results and also some potential follow-up work from the activities carried out at the national level. So obviously, clean cooking is a priority in Africa. 4 out of 5 people in sub-Saharan Africa lack access to clean cooking solutions, and this obviously has consequential health and environmental impacts. And 2024 we saw was really a year of accelerated political commitments in this region, in this area. So we had the G7 commitment to promote clean cooking in developing countries. Both the G20 and at COP29, there was this recognition of clean cooking as a priority issue. And also, we had the Summit on Clean Cooking in Africa hosted by IEA in May of last year, where 2.2 billion US dollars were committed to clean cooking. And these commitments obviously help elevate clean cooking as a critical climate solution and thereby unlock political will and, as I mentioned, also financing. And if well designed, they have the potential to encourage investment in context specific solutions that are compatible with local needs, resources, and also priorities. And bioethanol is one of these potential solutions. It's a renewable fuel can be made from locally produced resources, which generates new income streams for agricultural producers and also fosters economic growth. On top of this, it's also an extremely clean burning fuel. It's considered tier 5 by the WHO standard tiers, which is equivalent to LPG, for example. And so in Africa, these international commitments have translated into national policies and plans. 2 countries, Guinea and Zambia, have committed to investing in bioethanol as a cooking fuel within their nationally determined contributions as part of the climate agreement, the Paris Agreement. And we also have 8 countries, Ethiopia, Kenya, Malawi, Mali, Rwanda, Tanzania, Uganda, and Nigeria, who have all included scaling up bioethanol for clean cooking in either national or regional policies and plans. And this takes the form of either financing or subsidy programs, VAT and import duty waivers, and also some social safety net programs as well. But we also recognize that bioethanol for clean cooking is not going to be sustainable or suitable everywhere due to a number of barriers that I will mention later in my PowerPoint presentation. And that's one of the aims really of this project that Tiziana mentioned before, really to understand the suitability and sustainability of bioethanol as a clean cooking option in various countries and also country contexts, both through case study analysis and also stakeholder consultation. And as you can see, the project started in August of 2023, and since then we've had a number of different activities, which will culminate in a technical study, which is currently being finalized to summarize all of the project findings. But today I'm going to really be focusing in on the results of the country level work that we carried out, the national workshops on bioethanol for clean cooking in Rwanda and Uganda that occurred in September of last year. So why did we choose Rwanda and Uganda? Well, both of these countries have set ambitious targets for clean cooking. Rwanda specifically had this target to reduce the reliance on wood energy for cooking to 42% by 2024. They've also have tax exemptions for imported bioethanol fuel and the feedstock, and also quality and safety standards for both the denatured bioethanol fuel for cooking and also the stoves. On the basis of this, they've managed to attract a large number of investments, both from private companies. Cocoa Networks is the most noteworthy private company to have invested in Rwanda on bioethanol for clean cooking. They currently have large operations in Kenya, and given the enabling environment set up in Rwanda, they've also invested there. But not only private companies, also multilateral financial institutions such as the World Bank have also invested. Cocoa Networks specifically have already 20,000 registered companies in Kigali, in the capital, but this number is expected to increase up to 200,000 by the end of the year. And once this number is reached the 200,000 mark, they have the idea then to be producing ethanol in the country to serve these distribution efforts. And so the idea of this dialogue and understanding the sustainability in the country was really at an important moment. Similarly, the government of Uganda has also set an ambitious target to achieve 50% access to clean cooking by 2040. They also have VAT exemptions on the bioethanol fuel and also on stove parts. So in the country, there is a really big commitment to producing locally the stoves using imported stove parts. And they also have quality and safety standards for denatured bioethanol fuel and also the stoves. They have also developed a national integrated clean cooking strategy to scale up these diversified clean cooking options, including bioethanol, LPG, and electric cooking across the board, so in urban, rural, and also in humanitarian settings, which is an extremely important component in the country. So focusing in first on Rwanda, bioethanol is seen as a promising option for transitioning away from traditional cooking. There's currently no bioethanol fuel or stove production currently in place at the local level. And this is primarily because of the small land area of the country. There is understandably a large focus on food security, and sugarcane and cassava, which are the potential crops for bioethanol production, are still used as staple crops in the country, and have currently low but rapidly increasing yield. So during the stakeholder dialogue that we held in September last year, there was this discussion on the potential of using marginal land for the production of cassava for producing ethanol in the country. But it was agreed that the feasibility of this approach would need to be assessed. And we were also requested to provide extra information on how this cassava produced on marginal land could occur, and hence the webinar that we're holding today with the kind contribution of Giraffe Bioenergy. We also, during the stakeholder dialogue, there was also this agreement on awareness raising campaigns and demonstration activities being extremely important to support the clean energy transition, especially in rural areas where purchasing power is not as high, and the need to switch to clean cooking is therefore not as evident. The government of Rwanda also expressed the interest in a study on the potential of sustainable bioenergy production from agri-food waste and residues in the country. Unfortunately, this is something that we can't cover with the current project, but something that we are searching for additional funds to be able to undertake. Now moving on to Uganda. So Uganda is committed to fostering the development of a national bioethanol sector. This is not only for clean cooking, but also for transport. And they have the idea of an E10 mandate there for blending of ethanol into petrol fuel. They currently have domestic bioethanol production and also stove assembly already established. And in the country, the sugarcane, cassava, and maize crops are possible feedstocks from there. During the stakeholder dialogue, it was agreed that there were difficulties here in terms of product distribution, especially in rural areas, and that was something that would need to be worked on in the future. So as a follow-up to the event we held last September, the government of Uganda became a GBEP observer at the end of last year. And we will also be going back to the country in July of this year to host the 12th GBEP Bioenergy Week, which is our large regional forum focusing on bioenergy. Again, in Uganda, as well as the same as in Rwanda, there was this focus on awareness raising campaigns and technical trainings, demonstration activities to support the clean energy transition. And the Minister of Energy, who joined us at the workshop, also requested to assess the potential of sustainable local ethanol production from cassava, sugarcane, and maize. And again, although we're not able to cover this in the current project, we are looking for options to be able to do this with additional funds. So, as I mentioned, we will be producing from these stakeholder workshops, but also from case studies collected across Africa. We will be producing a technical study on bioethanol for clean cooking in Africa, where we've identified a number of barriers to the uptake of bioethanol for clean cooking, but also some of the strategies, the proven strategies that have been shown in a number of countries to overcome these barriers. And as Tiziana said, although this is specific to bioethanol for clean cooking, it's something, so these barriers and also some of the strategies, we see parallels with other clean cooking options as well. So some of the identified barriers were the high upfront and recurring costs of the technology and the fuel, inadequate infrastructure, unfavorable regulatory and tax environment, feedstock supply and price volatility, food security concerns from feedstock production, and also limited research and data. But there are a number of ways that have been shown to overcome these barriers in a number of countries where they've had successful bioethanol for clean cooking initiatives. So in terms of ensuring sustainability and also food security, ex-ante assessments of feasibility of domestic production potential, accompanied by integrated land use planning, use of marginal lands, and also use of agricultural residues as a feedstock, can really avoid posing these kinds of threats to food security. There was also the importance of a consistent and coordinated enabling policy environment across different sectors. So this involves integrating and prioritizing clean cooking solutions within national policies and also nationally determined contributions, and also adopting international or regional safety and quality standards for bioethanol fuel and stoves. In terms of finance and economics, it's been shown it's really important to leverage existing infrastructure, establish strategic partnerships with distributors and financial institutions, and also leverage carbon markets to reduce the costs for consumers. In terms of social acceptability and consumer awareness, we see the implementation of awareness raising campaigns and capacity building campaigns really important. But not only this, also post-acquisition surveys on end user adoption and also sustained use to be able to improve systems and processes in the future. And then finally, thinking about inclusivity, prioritizing the employment and involvement of women. And we'll hear from Giraffe Bioenergy on that later in the webinar. And also looking at integrated clean cooking plans that take into account also marginalized groups in rural areas, but also humanitarian settings. So looking ahead, as I've just mentioned some of the results of this FAO technical study that will be produced in just a few months' time, and that's one of the activities still to be carried out under the project before August of this year. And then we'll also be holding the 12th GBET Bioenergy Week in Uganda in July, and there we will have a full day dedicated to clean cooking, all bio-based options for clean cooking, including a training component and also activities for youth as well. And then thinking further, follow up from this project, as I mentioned in Uganda, both in Uganda and Rwanda, they've asked us to assess the potential either for sustainable ethanol production or sustainable bioenergy production more generally from a number of different feedstocks in the country. And we're also looking to replicate the project activities in other Asian and African countries. We've had, for example, interest from the Philippines, and or to extend the sustainability analysis to other bioenergy-based clean cooking solutions in different countries and in country contexts. So thank you very much for your attention. I'll be really pleased to answer any questions you have at the end of the webinar, and I'll pass it back to Tiziana. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Connie, for the insightful presentation and the comprehensive, I have to say, on the project. Before leaving the floor to Linda, I just want to inform all the participants, there are so many, because now it's almost 90 participants, 88, that this webinar is recorded, and we will share all the presentation with you via email at the end of the day or today or tomorrow and or the day after. And if you have any question you wanted to write them in the Q&A box, we will be very pleased to answer to all your questions during the dedicated session, in which you can also intervene and by raising your hands, and we will give you the floor. And so now it's time for Linda. If you, Linda, want to share your presentation.
I shared my presentation earlier, so maybe Sophia would put it on screen.
Okay, so we will try to share it. Connie is informing me that it would be better if you can share and take the control of the presentation by yourself.
Okay, so just give me a few seconds to set that up.
Sure. Also, the recording of the webinar will be shared with you. We will share a link so that you can further forward the contents of this webinar to other colleagues who may be interested in the contents that have been discussed today. So while Linda is trying to sharing the screen. Okay, Linda, it's working. It just have to go back to the first slide. Here we are. So thank you very much, Linda. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Okay, without further delay, it is my pleasure to share what we are doing at Giraffe Bioenergy, and certainly to round up the discussion on what is happening in East Africa. I have to move my computer a little bit here. Great. Good afternoon, greetings to everybody that is joining us today. My name is Linda Davis, and I'm the founder and CEO of Giraffe Bioenergy. I bring greetings from the team. We are headquartered in Nairobi, but we have a full team of 20 that are actually working in the marginal areas that the previous speaker has talked about. So it's my absolute pleasure to talk about bioethanol from cassava production and how specifically we are leveraging marginal lands in Kenya. See if I can advance my screen. Okay. Okay, so a little bit about Giraffe Bioenergy. We are establishing large-scale cassava agriculture. And this is a platform for food and ethanol cooking fuel. And as the previous speaker alluded, we are elevating women as vital drivers of economic development. It is very important for Giraffe Bioenergy, especially in Kenya, to say we work both for food and fuel. Our feedstock of choice is cassava. For whatever reason, unlike our sisters and brothers in Uganda, cassava is not considered a staple food in Kenya. However, we are very careful to ensure that any work we do actually is in service of food security and fuel security. And hence we say at Giraffe Bioenergy, we are standing tall for both of these missions. So, what problem are we solving at Giraffe Bioenergy? We feel like there's a missed opportunity that now the private sector is stepping in with the other sectors to solve. The first one in Kenya is this. There's a high demand for ethanol. The previous speaker spoke about Cocoa Networks and the work they're doing in Rwanda, but Cocoa Networks started here in Kenya. And there are millions of households today that are enjoying ethanol as a clean, safe, affordable cooking fuel. Now, what we're doing at Giraffe Bioenergy is catalyzing local production of the fuel. So we do not have to rely on imports, and we can actually catalyze our own local production. So that's the first opportunity that we want to catalyze. The second one, as we said, is food insecurity. 80% of Kenya is semi-arid and has marginal lands. So what we're saying is if we can grow a drought-tolerant crop like cassava, then we have an opportunity to serve both food and fuel. And I'll speak about the legislation that underpins this strategy later on. Now, as I said, we can do local production. Why do we say this? Here in Kenya, we've got vast amount of land. We've got skilled and semi-skilled labor. We've got the ethanol demand, as I mentioned, and we've got strong legislation. We've got a very strong regulatory environment that actually supports universal clean cooking by 2030. So the time is now for us to really take an opportunity to support the national missions that I just mentioned. So, as I said again, we're solving Kenya's clean cooking and food security challenges, and we're using marginal lands. I want to draw your attention to the picture on the bottom right. This is a picture that I took in 2020 in Kilifi County, where we work. And you can see cassava and you can see maize. Cassava is drought tolerant. Cassava is high yielding. When the rain comes, cassava is happy, it grows. When the drought and unreliable rainfall patterns happen, cassava still thrives, where crops like maize and horticulture, are really being impacted. And as we can see climate change happening around us, rains are unreliable. As we're speaking, there's rain in Kenya at the end of January. We're expecting these rains in April. So unreliable rainfall patterns, periods of flooding and drought, cassava tends to thrive within those environments. And that is why Giraffe Bioenergy, we are staying well away from land that is currently used for agriculture, and we're going to those marginal lands where maize does not do well, other crops do not do well. There is no meaningful agriculture. That is the land that we are working with, and cassava supports us being there because, as I mentioned, it is drought tolerant. It is also disease tolerant if you use the right varieties, right? And what else are we doing? The picture on the top right, if you can see very well, you can see we're doing beans. We're doing intercropping of cassava and beans. Remember, we're standing tall for food and fuel. And the beans there, because it's marginal land, it's depleted land, has a dual purpose. It provides food, but it also fixes the soil because we have to bring back the nitrogen in these marginal lands to make it productive for cassava to thrive and also for the beans to thrive, food and fuel. Right, so the problems again we're solving, ethanol cooking fuel, it makes sense to have that domestic production, food security, as I mentioned, if you use the right variety of cassava, and most importantly, we are providing meaningful work for our own people. We are female forward, our agricultural workforce is 100% women, but we're providing minimum wages in areas where no economic opportunities exist. So, as I said, we are taking degraded land. The land here, paradoxically, had been previously used for charcoal production. So it is deforested, right? And it is depleted, prone to erosion. So it is that land that we come in as Giraffe Bioenergy and we restore it using good agricultural practices into production, right? And we are starting with cassava as well as intercropping with maize, right? And the pictures there you can see are the women from the community who have joined hands with us and are working together to actually to learn about good cassava agricultural practices, producing the food and also the fuel. We had to do seedling innovation. I'll speak a little bit about that. We're doing restoration. We're planting trees as well as the cassava and the maize and other products as well. So Giraffe Bioenergy, again, we are pioneers, right? So we've had to start from the very, very beginning, right? I'll start with a little story. I'm a fermentation scientist. I worked in large ethanol production systems in Australia, in the US. When I realized, and when I found out that we can actually use ethanol as a clean cooking fuel, I was very excited to relocate back to my home country because this is an ethanol use case with a very strong purpose, right? When we're transitioning communities away from charcoal and firewood and kerosene, which are detrimental to the environment and to health. Now, when I thought, look, the best feedstock is perhaps cassava because you can grow in marginal land. But in Kenya, and specifically in Kenya, the seedling system was completely broken, right? So at that point, I had a decision to make. Do I pack up and go back to the US, or do I now become a farmer? And I chose the latter. We thought, look, if we do not have the clean, disease-free, ecologically adapted seedling, by that I mean seedling that can grow in this drought area, then Giraffe Bioenergy will be the organization to do that. So we embarked on an 18-month journey where now we had to take seedlings, raise a small amount of seedlings and rapidly multiply it to now what we are calling the Center for Cassava Excellence. And I'll show that to you. So in a nutshell, we're pioneers in cassava, we're pioneers in clean energy, and we are using our local expertise to do that. We joke as entrepreneurs that if you're an entrepreneur in Kenya, you have to be ready to vertically integrate, whether you like it or not, right? I came to build a biorefinery. I find myself a cassava farmer. And I'm not only a cassava farmer, I'm also a seedling propagator as well. So these kinds of integrations have to be considered, especially when you're looking at these kinds of market, especially when you're looking at marginal lands as we are. Okay, so again, just to summarize the first part of this of the conversation, we in Kenya, at least we are lucky. We are quite lucky because we are standing on strong legislation. I want to draw your attention to 3 key legislation. The first is the Kenya Ethanol Master Plan. This was released in June 2021 by the Ministry of Energy and other stakeholders. And it really lays out the landscape of all the feedstock available for ethanol production, including cassava. And this is what really gave Giraffe Bioenergy the confidence that this is viable. The second piece of policy is the National Clean Cooking Transition Strategy. It was mentioned before, and this was released in 2024. And Kenya is targeting 30% of its population to transition to using ethanol. The first 50 is earmarked for LPG. The next is 30%, 4 million households to use ethanol. The next is electricity, and then the balance 10% is still to use biomass, right? So sustainably produced biomass. So we do have the legislation. Now it is for private sector, NGO, and other stakeholders to really make this a reality. The third piece of legislation I want to bring our attention to is the National Flour Blending Bill. And this is a food security piece of legislation that is unable to pass Parliament. Why? Because we do not have sufficient production of cassava in Kenya. So at Giraffe Bioenergy, we are expecting that as we are developing our biorefineries to produce ethanol cooking fuel, we will also be catalyzing enough seedling, enough domestic production of cassava, so we can also fulfill our food security ambitions in Kenya. Great. So I want to talk a little bit about the topic that brings us here today, and that is how do you actually catalyze production in marginal lands? Again, I'm here with team members who are working on this. It's not just me alone. I really want to acknowledge the members of Giraffe Bioenergy who are working day in, day out in this semi-arid area. It's very, very hot, unreliable rainfall. But our secret sauce is we are by the Galana River. So we are situated by a perennial river, and the tragedy, the travesty, the opportunity that we are catalyzing is These communities live by the side of the river. They're in a semi-arid area. So why not make investments in irrigation, right? Cassava does not need a lot of irrigation. It just needs irrigation during the first 12 weeks of establishment. So we can put together some simple irrigation solutions, have our cassava grow for 12 weeks under irrigation, and then we move that irrigation system to the next block and the next block and the next block. Thereby, land that was previously marginal, land that was previously relying on unreliable rainfall can actually be brought into production. And cassava allows us to have more cost-effective solutions because it's not requiring irrigation throughout the 12-month growing cycle, right? So in a nutshell, 12 weeks, we grow the cassava, we irrigate it, we leave it alone. If the rain comes, well and good, the cassava grows. If the rains don't come or they're unreliable, the cassava will still thrive until the next little bits of rain come, right? And that is how we are working with cassava. Right, so here are some wonderful pictures we want to share with you of the Giraffe Bioenergy Center for Excellence. We've pioneered cassava research and development. We're piloting new farming methods because, farming on marginal land requires a lot of innovation, and we're using the local community. As I said, 100% agricultural workforce, and there's women get trained. There's classroom training, as you can see on the picture on the bottom right. We're using shrubs that from clearing the land, and we're putting those shrubs back into the land for increasing the organic matter, right? Because the marginal land's fully depleted, very infertile. So we're reusing what came out of the land as well. And that is a picture of the management team and some of the men and women that work in support of the mission. Okay, again, 5-step. How did we do it, or how are we doing it? The first thing is we must acknowledge the collaboration we have with the International Institute of Tropical Agriculture and CALRO. CALRO is the Kenya Agricultural Research and Livestock Organization, and they're at the forefront of really creating and developing and breeding seedlings that are suitable for Kenya, suitable for where we work. And when we talk about suitability, we're talking about 3 things specifically. Number 1, they're drought tolerant. Number 2, they're disease tolerant. Number 3, they're high yielding. And they're high yielding by the volume of the cassava itself, but specifically for the starch content, which is valuable when you're looking at converting starch to ethanol cooking fuel. So partnership with stakeholders around Kenya and internationally has been absolutely a game changer for us. Secondly is innovating, right? So we are out there in the bush, in the rural areas, but we've developed labs, and I'll show you pictures of that. And we've started with just a small amount of this special seedlings that are suited for our area, and we've had to innovate rapid multiplication technologies, right? Remember, cassava has a 12-month growing cycle. We cannot wait 12 months to get the seedling. So we've developed our own rapid propagation methods. We've talked about inclusivity. Right now, we've got 200 women that have been trained and certified as block farmers. And these women are experts in growing cassava in good agricultural practices in the marginal area. Why is this important? A farmer that grows in the rainy region can afford to be, for lack of a better word, a little bit sloppy maybe. They're still going to get some kind of a yield, because the rains are there, the soils are fertile. In the marginal land, we have to be very, very careful. And this is why we spend enough. We have investment in training the women rigorously, right? And after we train them, we provide capacity building. They work on the land for, they become our workforce in the seedling, in the nursery, in the production, right? This is the same women that we use. We do not hire anybody that does not hold a certificate in good cassava agricultural practices. And then our results speak for themselves. We are yielding cassava way above the global average, and we're very proud of those results. Okay, I'm just going to show you some slides of pictures. Yeah, enough talking from me, some pictures. This is, our lab, our state-of-the-art laboratory in the rural area. It's in Baricho, Kilifi County. You fly into Nairobi, you fly to Malindi, it's an hour, and then you drive 50 kilometers, I beg your pardon. And in the heart of Baricho County, in Kilifi County, you will find our Center of Excellence. And these are the individuals that work there. The lunch boxes you're seeing is, part of the innovation that we've had in rapidly multiplying our seedling stock. Some of the innovation there, these are the women we've trained from the community. They are creating seedlings, right, in very, very innovative single nodes. Instead of cutting a whole foot of cassava to grow, we are miniaturizing it and getting multiple seedlings very, very quickly. Top right corner, we're very, very proud of our CAFE certificate, and that is the local regulator that has come to our area and looked at the agricultural practices, and they've given us the stamp of approval. Indeed, we are doing everything required to produce good, robust seedlings in our marginal land as well. We've talked about the women. Here's some of the women. They're taking a classroom session. You can't see the TV there, but we're showing TV. We're showing videos from women in Uganda, women in Thailand, really to give that comfort that they are participating in something quite big that is beyond our village, that they are participating in a value chain that has global value, right? So those are the women taking lessons. Here we are having some lunch. We're doing solar irrigation, and they are proudly holding their certificates as well. Some more pictures. Again, these are our women really putting down cassava in marginal lands. Here are our yields. The yields speak for themselves. There's a picture there. One cassava plant, 10, 12 kilos. Right, it's coming out, right? So multiply that for a hectare. We're really happy with our yields. So where are we at now? I'm really coming to the end of my discussion. We are now, establishing the first of 3,000 hectares, right? So we need to grow cassava on around 3,000 hectares of land, and that will be enough feedstock for our first biorefinery. Our biorefinery, the first one is 15 million liters, and that should be operational in 2026. So we are planting that now. Remember, cassava has a 12-month cycle, which means we will be ready to start harvesting and start producing ethanol in the coming 18, 24 months. Okay, so our financial model, happy to just say, look, we can support the food systems with seedlings, NGOs, government. A lot of people are looking for these disease-free certified seedlings. We can support with that. As I mentioned, our biorefinery is anticipated to be operational in 2026. And we've got very strong supporters from the financing side. We expect to be profitable from the get-go, while also saving the end consumer ethanol cooking fuel money, because we will not be attracting import tariffs. We will not be attracting freight costs. So we expect that domestic produced ethanol will reach the end consumer cost effectively. Okay, so this is the last slide, our call to action. I'm not going to read everything here, but we are so excited. We're excited at the job opportunities, yeah? Just to fulfill ethanol cooking fuel will create over 350,000 jobs in the rural area, meaningful jobs with secure offtakes, right, with the ethanol. We need a lot of investment, 25 billion. To revitalize the sugar industry as well, that they should not be excluded, and cassava as well. Smallholder farmers can earn a meaningful income. Working with smallholder farmers, these women work so hard day in, day out, right? Even with their own small subsistence farms. If anybody should be rewarded for their hard work, we believe at Giraffe Bioenergy in increasing smallholder farmer incomes. Environmental conservation, this speaks for itself. Perpetuating or using charcoal and firewood, results in deforestation. So if we can have ethanol really hit the national targets of 4 million households, then that also, talks about conservation. Health, we all know the devastating effects of cooking with charcoal and firewood and kerosene, and also we've talked about food security. I will be remiss if I didn't mention some gaps in the legislation. We would love to, work with the Kenya government, work with the international community to release novel cassava varieties. There are many that are in development, many that have been tested in Uganda, tested in Tanzania, tested in Nigeria. So the more we can continue to ensure that our seedling system is robust, the better. Implementing different policies that makes really keep support the value chain will be valuable. Tax incentives, bringing the biorefinery from overseas, tax incentives on tariffs will be really, really valuable to ensure that we move as quickly as possible and use capital as effectively as possible if there are tax incentives in catalyzing this very industry. And then also we cannot leave our smallholder farmers behind. We've spent there's a lot of research and investment, but farmers have the habit of exchanging seedlings amongst each other. So for them to be able to purchase the seedlings that will secure their harvest, some smallholder subsidies would be quite valuable. I'm only going to show you this because on our website, you can see videos. You can see videos of our facilities, and you can see videos of our women working. This is the team from Giraffe Bioenergy, and on behalf of them, we say thank you very much for listening to us, and I really hope that you're able to participate and join us in any way you possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Amazing presentation. I've been in Kilifi more than 10 years ago, and that time the cassava was really scattered in the land. So it's very impressive now to see your picture, and congratulations for the well done work. We have many questions in the Q&A box, and I will simply go through them because I share the same interest, let's say, with some of our participants. I also would like to know some more details. For instance, one participant is asking, beyond giving, beyond saying what are you doing is excellent. He would like to know how many hectares do you have now growing cassava? How many hectares of cassava do you need to grow to meet your needs in the future?
Fantastic, right? So to produce 15 million liters of ethanol, right? So we need cassava growing on between 2,500 and 3,000 hectares. And this depends on yields, right? So right now, if we take a conservative yield of 30 metric tons per hectare, right? So we can do the math there. So we are getting quite high yields, but we're taking a conservative view of 30 metric tons. So that means in Kilifi County, we are going to have cassava on approximately 3,000 hectares.
Thank you. And I think you answered also the question about the yield. And so someone else is asking, so you will produce the cassava in Kilifi. And where do you plan to establish the plant for the ethanol production, and where this ethanol will be sold? In which, mainly in the cities or in the rural area?
That's a great question. So we're going to use best practice. So typically in starch to ethanol systems, you want to produce as close to the feedstock as possible. Cassava is bulky and it's 60% water, moisture. So you do not want to move that around. So we're going to co-locate the state-of-the-art biorefinery, millions of dollars in investment in Kilifi County in the rural area, right? The second question is, the solution with ethanol cooking fuel is such an elegant one. Of course, I am biased. We are producing it in the rural area for distribution in the urban areas, in urban communities where, distribution costs are reduced, right? Because of high density, right? It's very challenging to distribute ethanol in the rural area because the homes are further apart, right? So what we like to say is we're producing ethanol cooking fuel in the rural area. The sisters in the rural area are producing this for the sisters in the urban area. And there's a wonderful economic exchange from that model.
Thank you. I sincerely apologize with Connie, but all the questions are for Linda. So I will go ahead because they are super interesting. Maybe then I will be back to you. And there is a question, Linda, that I found very important. Could you please give us more detail on the land tenure system? To whom does the land ownership of these hectares pertain? Does it belong to the community members?
That is a fantastic question, and certainly one of the things that we take very seriously. And you can go and watch some of the videos we have in YouTube. Is community engagement, right? Every 3 to 6 months, we call the community and we share our ambition. And remember, the women that work for us are really taken from a small circumference around there. So it is the land from the community, right, that we are using. We are using, right? So we have bought a small parcel where our nursery is, the Center for Excellence. That one we've bought from the community. So that is owned by Giraffe Bioenergy, the heart of the operations where this rapid multiplication happens and these seedlings happen. The rest of the land is leased from the community. And we make sure that we work with the chiefs, we make sure we work with the locals, we make sure we work with the community and themselves to really understand that they are part and parcel of what we are developing. So in a nutshell, it's community land, but we've got to be very, very careful how we bring in that community to make sure there's shared prosperity as we are using their asset.
Thank you, Linda. And maybe it is, I don't know if you want to answer, but can you tell us what is the name of this cassava variety that are you using for having this yield, improved
No,
yield?
absolutely. One of the things that we are very proud of is our cassava varieties are certified disease-free. Now, for the Kenyans on this call, they'll understand how important that is, right? Because the seedling value chain in Kenya has been ravaged by cassava mosaic disease, cassava brown stick disease, right? So that's the first thing we're really, really proud of. The cassava varieties that we have at the Giraffe Center for Cassava Excellence is certified disease-free, right? And we have local varieties, local improved varieties that are released by Calro, and we are in partnership with the IATA working on these other varieties that are not yet released. That are not yet released to the general public, and we are hoping that when those become released by the Kenya Agricultural Ministry, then those can also be available to the local community because they have certified dual disease resistance. But for now, we're using both improved varieties and these varieties that are not yet released, pending release shortly.
Thank you, very clear. Another question, once again for you, is have you considered to partner with already established entities like Cocoa in Kenya for the distribution of the ethanol, just for the distribution, because we know that Cocoa usually import the ethanol, but they have already established a good infrastructure, let's say, for the distribution. Could it be a possibility?
We would love to have Cocoa as our customer. So any organization that is distributing ethanol cooking fuel, we will be producing it as per the Kenya spec, right? Again, we have a very specific spec that the Kenya Bureau of Standards has put out for ethanol cooking fuel. We will be producing to that spec. And Cocoa Networks and others are welcome to be partners when we start producing in 2026.
Yeah, that's super. Another important question, are you using a mechanized process or special equipment for the collection? And let me, merge this question with another one. The 30 tons per hectare are per season or per year? Because the mechanization is extremely relevant, no, in this type of contexts.
Great. So yes, so we call our system a hybrid system. So again, remember, we are underpinned by principles of shared prosperity, right? So we bring mechanization where mechanization makes sense, and we use the local community where the local community makes sense, right? So if you think about the cassava growing cycle, at the beginning, land preparation, clearing land, we would use mechanization. But when we are coming to planting and weeding and really taking care of the cassava plant, our women come in and they do that. And then, when it comes to harvesting, we're going to have a hybrid system as well. So we're going to have mechanized cassava harvester, and then the community will also participate in aggregation and some of the transportation as well. So we really are looking to see where the efficiencies are, right? But also we want to make sure that we share in the prosperity, right? So mechanized and human labor, work together to make our system unique and efficient.
Thank you, Linda. Very, very clear question. So now my question is to Connie. Connie, have you had the opportunity to go through the question of James Azalip? Would you like to answer?
Sure. Well, actually, I saw that. Thank you very much, James, for the comment in the Q&A. And I also saw there was a similar comment related to the use of geospatial data and how important that is when we're assessing biomass availability and also markets. And as you rightly mentioned, these kinds of GIS platforms are extremely important. In FAO, we have the Earth Map, which does these kinds of analysis. And also, as James mentioned in UNEP, they have the Strata platform, and it's definitely something that we should think about collaborating more on, specifically in these countries where I think that it could be really, really useful. So I'm not sure it was much of a question, as more of a proposal for us to collaborate more on this. Yeah, I definitely think that that's an extremely important idea.
Thank you, Connie. Maybe we just want to mention the BEFS approach, no, that FAO can use to assess the feasibility of biomass or bioenergy in general production at local level and especially at national level by using all the different tools to predict what could be the biomass availability and what type of bioenergy could be generated to cover what type of needs in the different contexts, for instance, in urban, rural area and in humanitarian settings. So just to say the FAO has a dedicated tool for an ex-ante approach to understand the feasibility of bioenergy production in general, of course, starting from the potential of production of biomass, being this dedicated crop or agricultural residues, and so on. So I think we have to stop here now because our time is finished. But we will answer the other question, and I will, Linda, ask for your collaboration in this, because if we haven't answered all the questions that are in the Q&A box, we will answer via email. And so thank you very much to all the participants for having been with us. And I very much hope to see you in the next webinar of the DBEB webinar series 2025. Thank you very much and have a good rest of the day.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.